everyone, welcome back to Our World TV. Today we are going to discuss more information that has now surfaced regarding the Watts case. If you are not familiar with this case, please check out our list of videos regarding this case listed in the description box down below or on the iCard above. More details are emerging from that horrific night in August 2018 when Chris Watts murdered his pregnant wife Shanann and his two little girls, Cece and Bella Watts. Family annihilator Chris Watts has made a chilling new confession that he murdered his daughters twice in a disturbing prison letter written to author Cherlyn Cadle. This new information was shared with his new pen pal whilst in jail. Cherlyn Cadle, who is a 65-year-old grandmother from Illinois, began exchanging letters with Watts after his conviction and sentencing. She has since compiled all these letters in her new book and reveals some chilling details that Watts did not reveal during his trial. These letters and one-on-one conversations between Cadle and Watts form the basis of the book, Letters from Christopher. Watts' letter lays out in grim detail how he attempted to smother his daughters, Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3, before strangling his pregnant wife Shanann at their home in Fredrick, Colorado. But following the murder attempt, the girls woke up, bruised and traumatized. Watts, 34, did not share the revelation during his multiple interviews with police and FBI agents following the murders in August 2018. In the letter, Watts writes, August 13th, morning of, I went to the girls' room first, before Shanann and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back into bed with Shanann, and our argument ensued. After Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised, and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act much more worse, knowing I went to their rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the location of the batteries. Watts also hinted in his letters to Cadle that the murder of his pregnant wife Shanann and his daughters wasn't as spontaneous as he originally told investigators. He had previously claimed that it was a spontaneous outburst of rage that led him to kill his wife, who was 15 weeks pregnant with their son Nico, and his daughters, so that he could be with his mistress of 2 months, his co-worker, Nicole Kessinger. Watts previously claimed he snapped after having an argument with Shanann where she allegedly told him he wouldn't see his children, and he strangled her in a fit of rage. But in one of his letters, he seemed to suggest that he had been planning the murders ahead of time. Watts also admits to concealing other facts from authorities that he would not talk about in phone calls from prison to prevent them from being recorded. I don't like saying stuff like that over the phone, because I'm never certain when they screen my calls, he wrote. However, he admitted in the letter that he had been plotting the murders for some time. August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, "That's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in." I knew what was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it, he wrote. He also confessed that he had slipped the potent painkiller oxycodone to his wife in the hopes of inducing a miscarriage. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann wasn't pregnant, he wrote. Watts then goes on in gruesome detail how he strangled Shanann to death and disposed of her body and the body of his daughters. He wrote that as he was struggling with his wife's body and trying to load it in his vehicle, the girls were just kind of running around the house and watching me with scared looks on their faces. Bella started to cry, and when she did, Celeste started whimpering. What a nightmare this was. Watts, who had turned down dozens of interview requests and received hundreds of letters, appeared to respond to Cadle's view that he could still make a difference in other people's lives and that this could be his story of redemption. But she did not sugarcoat the evil of what he had done. Let me just say, the crime was horrific, so I'm not writing to you to tell you how wonderful you are, or that I want to be pen pals, she wrote in her first letter in February. The 65-year-old grandmother from northern Illinois wrote 3 times before Watts replied. She subsequently visited him in prison 3 times, with each meeting lasting around 5 hours after he put her on his visitors list. Since March 2019, she has spoken to him about 3 times a week over the phone. After meeting in person, Watts decided to allow Cadle to use his letters in her first book, Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. He agreed to the book in exchange for Cadle's promise that she would publish his testimony of coming to God and the forgiveness that he received. Through his letters, Watts also quashed any lingering doubt that Shanann was responsible for her daughter's murders, as he had previously falsely claimed to the police during his first interviews after the killings. Following the shocking letter about his daughter's ordeal, Cadle said she was left with many questions, which Watts answered in later conversations. The 34-year-old described how he killed his wife in grisly detail and recalls how she looked moments before her death, as he told her that he wanted a separation and no longer loved her. Isn't it weird how I look back and what I remember so much is her face getting all black with streaks of mascara, Watts said. All of the weeks of me thinking about killing her, and now I was faced with it. When she started to get drowsy, I somehow knew how to squeeze the jugular veins until it cut off the blood flow to her brain, and she passed out. I knew if I took my hands off her, she would still keep me from Nikki. They asked me why she couldn't fight back. It's because she couldn't fight back. Her eyes filled with blood as she looked at me and she died. I knew she was gone when she relieved herself. Watts said that, to his surprise, his daughters came walking into the room while he was wrapping Shanann in a bedsheet and began asking what was wrong with their mom. He told them that she wasn't feeling well. Watts said that he tried to carry Shanann's body downstairs, but she was too heavy and he lost his grip. He ended up dragging her down the steps and then bundled her in the back of his truck. Cadle asked him about the claims that Watts gave his wife oxycodone. He responded with conflicting stories, saying that he had given it to her twice. Once at her parents' home in North Carolina to try and cause a miscarriage, and then immediately before her death. He later contradicted himself and said he only gave it to her once in North Carolina. I asked him where he got the oxy, and he told me that was one of the things he will take to his death, Cadle wrote. However, he admitted in the new letter that he had been plotting the murders for some time. He later said, "I realize now the girls getting up and walking around may have been God's third attempt to stop me from what I was doing." He said that his overwhelming feeling was being so mad they were still alive. He then drove with his wife's body, her face and feet wrapped in garbage bags, and his 2 daughters to a remote oil field owned by his then employer, Anadarko. He had packed his lunch, a shovel, and rake, along with a gas can, which led the FBI to subsequently ask whether he was considering suicide. The FBI asked me if I was going to take my own life, and I told them I thought about it, but honestly no. I was not going to take my own life, he later told Cadle. He recalled that it took him an hour to drive to the site where he methodically killed both of his daughters. I dumped Shanann on the ground, then I walked back to the truck, and with the blanket that Celeste was holding, I put it over her head and smothered her. Watts squeezed Celeste's body through an 8-inch hatch in one of the oil tankers. I couldn't believe how easy it was to just let her drop through the hole and let her go. I heard the splash as she hit the oil. He then relived for Cadle in appalling detail how he killed his eldest daughter Bella after she had watched him murder and dispose of her sister. He spoke of his surprise that little quiet Bella had a will to live. Out of all three, Bella is the only one that put up a fight. I will hear her soft little voice for the rest of my life saying, "Daddy, no." She knew what I was doing to her. She may not have understood death, but she knew I was killing her. He has repeatedly told investigators that his daughters were not alive when they went into the oil tanks, and that he had intentionally separated their bodies. "I had to put the girls in the tanks so they wouldn't get up the second time," he said. He then turned to the task of burying his wife in a shallow grave. When I dug the hole, it seemed a lot deeper than it was. As I pulled on the sheet, she rolled out and into the hole. I think she had given birth. She landed face down. I remember being so angry with her that I was not going to change how she landed, he said. The autopsy later confirmed that Shanann's amniotic sac containing the fetus was protruding from her vaginal area. Shanann's cause of death was ruled as strangulation, and the two girls were smothered. The report also noted that Bella and Celeste had crude oil in their throats, stomach, and lungs after spending days in the bottom of the tanks, contradicting previous reports stating that no oil was found in their stomachs. Following the murders and the disposal of their bodies, Watts searched Google for the lyrics of a Metallica song, Battery, according to police records. The lyrics include in the lines, "Lunacy has found me, cannot stop the battery. Pounding out aggression turns into obsession, cannot kill the battery, cannot kill the family." A few hours after he buried his family, Watts' alibi began to fall apart. He gave an awkward TV interview, appealing for his wife and daughter's safe return. Surveillance footage gathered from his neighbor's home also showed Watts on the morning of the murders. He backed his truck up to garage, loaded up the vehicle, and drove off. Watts had told police, friends, and family that Shanann had run off with their daughters while he was at work, but the surveillance tape revealed no one but Watts had left the house that day. Fredrick police administered a polygraph to Watts. Investigators say he came to the test in loose clothing and was wearing no wedding ring. The polygraph test indicated Watts was lying, and the tester confronted Watts with the deception. After a long conversation with his father Ronnie, Watts admitted to killing his wife, but initially claimed that Shanann had killed the girls because he had told her he wanted to end their marriage. Watts has claimed that he murdered his family so he could be free to be with his mistress, Nicole Kessinger. Following the murders, Kessinger was reportedly placed in witness protection and is now living in a different state under a new identity. After Shanann and her daughters were killed, Kessinger contacted police and spoke with them for nearly 2 hours on August 16th. Kessinger told investigators that she and Watts met at work and began talking outside the office around late May 2018. A few weeks later, their relationship became sexual. She claimed that Watts had told her his marriage was over and did not mention his daughters or the fact that his wife was pregnant with their third child. "It's not fair. It wasn't fair to me in the first place. It wasn't fair to her in the first place. It wasn't fair to any of us in the first place, you know?" Kessinger told investigators, referring to Watts' lies. Kessinger was adamant that she never would have pursued a relationship or even agreed to date Watts had she known he was still with his wife. "It's like, you know, I'm gonna wake up every day and know that like this mom and her unborn child and these 2 little girls are not around anymore. It breaks my heart," a tearful Kessinger said. She also worried about what would happen to her once she was revealed to be the other woman. My name is about to be slandered for probably a while. I don't know how long it's going to take to heal, but I would not be surprised if it's going to be hard to go out in public sometimes, for a couple of years, she explained. Investigators examined the phone of Kessinger and found searches for sexual videos and positions, and hours worth of searches for Shanann Watts. After the murders, police say Kessinger searched for "Can cops trace text messages?" and made multiple searches for Amber Frey, the mistress of convicted murderer Scott Peterson. She searched whether people hate Amber Frey and researched Frey's subsequent book deal. Kessinger told investigators she had deleted text and photos from her phone that Watts had sent her. Kessinger said that she didn't believe the affair was the catalyst for the murders, but it may have accelerated the process. She told them that money is the biggest catalyst for this event happening. Watts told Cadle that he thought Kessinger was his soulmate and felt no remorse after killing his family. "All I could feel was now I was free to be with Nikki," he wrote after the slaughter. "Feelings of my love for her was overcoming me. I felt no remorse. After the murders," Watts told Cadle, "all I could feel now was I was free to be with Nikki. Feelings of my love for her was overcoming me. I felt no remorse. The darkness inside me had won. It was still in me though. I thought maybe permanently. I felt evil, swallowed up by this thing inside me. I felt like I could kill anything and be justified for doing it." Chris also said that he felt complete darkness around Nicole, and a lot of dark stuff occurred when he was with her. Cherlyn Cadle describes in her new book how Watts talked about Nicole, stating that he was mesmerized by her. She showed him respect that he didn't seem he'd ever been shown before. Christopher says he loved her like he had never loved anyone else before. At the same time, he loved Shanann, although he knows that she was not his soulmate and not the person he was supposed to be with. Chris says he never would have killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters if he hadn't met his co-worker Mistress Nicole. The newly unearthed testimony goes against Watts' claims during his murder trial that he acted spontaneously on the day of the slayings. Following the admission of his guilt, those around the case have continued to deal with the aftermath. Shanann's father asked people to stop harassing his family, while the law enforcement officials who worked on the case spoke out about the trauma that they have experienced after the conclusion of the investigation. As for how Watts' life has been in prison, there have been conflicting reports. One insider shared that the convicted killer remains in his own private hell during incarceration, while others have stated that he continues to receive multiple female visitors and tons of mail, and Chris Watts believes that Nicole writes to him in secret code under an alias name. Cherlyn Cadle said that Watts gave her permission to publish the letters in her book in exchange for his testimony of coming to God and the forgiveness he received. The book, Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders, is currently available. Watts took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty after pleading guilty to the 4 murders. Christopher Watts is serving 3 consecutive life sentences and 2 more concurrent life sentences, as well as 3 12-year sentences for separate accounts of tampering with a deceased human body in the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, in prison at a Dodge Correctional Institution, Wisconsin, where he is on 23-hour lockdown. April 23, 2019. Dear Cherlyn, hello again. I hope you are doing well. It has been awesome talking with you on the phone, but I know the 15-minute time frame is a pain. Sometimes I can get right back on the phone, but right now there are other inmates that like to be on the phone as much as I do, so I respect their time as well. How's your dad doing? I've been praying on that every day. Yes, that petition really blew my mind that people really want to make me suffer like that. Even if they did ever take my pictures, they can't take my memories. An inmate from another institution wrote me about that subject, and said if they take your pictures, they would need to take the pictures from the other 500 to 600 people that have their family pictures up on their cell, convicted of the same act. Do I feel like I should be incarcerated for the act I committed? I most definitely think so. Do I imagine myself ever doing anything like this or be a danger to society? I most definitely think not. If I were to ever be released, I know I would go straight to a ministry and start going to jails and prisons and help inmates. If God led me to be ordained, I would go that route, as well as possibly even be a chaplain. Maybe the laws will change one day. My attorney team could see I was different and knew this was a one-time occurrence for me. They told me that in Europe, the law is I would serve 20 years or so for homicide. And in California, after 25 years of imprisonment on a life sentence, you can be released if you had good behavior. So there's hope for everyone to live outside prison walls. I know physically I'm behind these walls, but my spirit is free with Christ. If God keeps putting it on your heart that there is more to the story than what I had told the FBI has, you're correct. I don't like saying stuff like that over the phone because I'm never certain when they screen my calls. I know I already told you the vision I had before August 13th. When I was lying in bed and all the lights were on in the loft and downstairs, and I felt so alone, that's exactly what happened April 14th when I was lying in bed. I don't know if you want this in the book, or if God does, but here are the things I left out. August 12th, when I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, "That's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in." I knew it was going to happen the day before, and I did nothing to stop it. I was numb to the entire world. I had literally taken my kids to a birthday party, played with water balloons, had an amazing time, sang songs all the way home, gave them a bath, a shower, ate dinner, read bedtime stories, and sang bedtime songs, and still nothing registered. When Shanann had to be somewhere, I always enjoyed taking the girls places or playing outside because it was our opportunity to bond, and still the night before I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. August 13th, morning of, I went into the girls' room first, before Shanann and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed to kill them. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shanann, and our argument ensued. After Shanann had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did. Bella's eyes were bruised, and both girls looked like they had been through trauma. That made the act that much worse, knowing I went to their rooms first and knowing I still took their lives at the location of the batteries. The reason the medical examiner found oxycodone in Shanann's system is because I gave it to her. I thought it would be easier to be with Nicole if Shanann wasn't pregnant. I don't know if this was a spiritual visit, but I had a dream. Cece was dancing next to the chair in my cell. When she was dancing, all of my folders on the chair started moving, and I thought she was in trouble, so I said, "Watch out, get away, watch out." Then I woke up. I'm hoping she comes back. I hope everyone comes to visit me. I'm trying to see if I can clear my head better before I go to sleep to help. I like that John 10:10 passage you sent. I wish I could have had an open ear to hear the Lord calling me back in June, July, and August. If we run after sin, we won't hear our shepherd calling us. I couldn't discern between the good spirits and evil spirits, and that eventually lodged me into a deep pit I couldn't climb back out of. Take care, and God bless. Chris. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out our other videos on the Watts case. All the links are in the description box down below. We also vlog our lives and share recipes and reviews. Please check it out. We would love to hear from you. Be a part of our world. Please don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, and hit that little bell notification right next to the subscribe button so you can get updated straight away when we upload a video. Follow us on all social media, Let us know in the comments down below if you'd like us to cover another specific case, or if you'd just like to share your thoughts or maybe ask us a question. Just let us know in the comments down below. See you in the next video, guys. Much love from our world to yours.